Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Rebecca. I'm an animal communicator and spiritual medium. I have two channels here on YouTube. First is Spirit Journey of Enlightenment, which covers all things spirituality and navigating the human experience, and The Words of the Wild, which is wisdom from Mother Earth and important messages shared from the animal kingdom. Today I want to speak about something very interesting that's kind of become apparent to me recently, an animal that in a lot of my work, many of the animals that I encounter, unless they are animal companions of clients, quite a lot of my encounters are unexpected, and I have found that animals are brilliant messengers. They come through with messages both personally for myself and also on a bigger level for the human collective. Animals have told me in several sessions I've had that the animal kingdom is going to be showing up more for humanity at this time of transition, and they will be showing us more and more things that we need to learn to understand and how to work in harmony with them and coexist. And they share such beautiful insight, and just like humans, all animals have likes and dislikes and very different personalities, which is something I really love. Some of the interactions that I have actually been quite hilarious, and like us, animals have good sense of humour as well. So recently, first of all, I'll say I've always been fascinated with this animal ever since I was a child. I thought they were very cute, and it's only kind of in probably the last month, they've been everywhere. Everywhere that I've been, I've seen little signs of them, and my dog also, when I haven't seen the signs, my dog has alerted me to the signs of their presence. That animal that I'm going to be speaking with and channeling today is the mole. And I know that in some places moles are seen as pests, and I can see, especially around where I am at the moment, where I live in the UK, I've seen so many molehills everywhere. And I do understand that they can be problematic, especially if people have horses or to farmers. I understand that they can be a problem, but I've been called more and more to communicate with their energy, and it's been beautiful. Actually, it's been really beautiful, and each time I've kind of gone out on a walk in the last couple of weeks, I've kind of worked with their energy a little bit more, and I've been listening to what they have to say, and it's actually very beautiful for this this time that humanity is experiencing and going through. So usually what I will do is sit down and I will channel before I record. I will channel and then I will read back my notes. But this felt like a very active an active energy exchange with the mole, and it feels like they actually want to channel kind of in real time. They want to do it as we go, so that if there's anything that kind of comes up, that they can share while we're doing it, rather than me writing it down and then relaying it to you. So I really hope that you will enjoy kind of getting into this space with us today and sharing this energy session with mole energy for the collective. So I'm just going to take a moment, just kind of center myself again and just connect back into that beautiful energy of the mole, and letting them just bring through the wisdom that they want to share with the collective today. Anything interesting? Okay, so the first thing that's coming through is that they are very determined little creatures, and something that made me laugh when I didn't do too much research on them, because when I'm working, especially if it's something that I don't really know about, I like to see what comes through first, and then I'll go and look things up later. But I was looking up. It was really funny because every time, and I don't know if anyone else has seen this or if it's something that you haven't really given any thought to, every time you see moles depicted, there's a molehill, and they're always kind of like peeping out the top with their little claws over the top. And I've been seeing all these molehills, and I was like, oh, I'd love to see a mole pop out. Like, it'd be so special to actually see one in real life. And then the person I was with at the time said to me, "You do know that they don't come out of those hills?" Like, yeah, they do. Every time you see moles, like pictures of moles, moles on cards, you know, anytime moles are depicted, you always see them with their head sticking out of the molehill. And I was actually quite disappointed to find out that no, they don't. They really don't come out unless they absolutely have to. They generally do stay underground. So I was quite sad, but also it was something that made me laugh. It was you know, it was a fact that I didn't know, and I guess it was a little bit of the magic that I was holding on to, that one day I might see a mole pop its little head out and I'd actually get to meet it in person, but that's not to be. So they're very determined characters, and when I did have a look, you know, I was like, I'm going to check this because I'm sure they do come out. And so when I looked online, it was actually the first thing that came up was actually a humane pest control company in the States, who they actually help to, they'll, rather than kill them, they'll actually remove them and release them to another area where they're more welcome. They're not being such a nuisance. But they were kind of going through the things that can be done, ways that people do to try and get rid of them. And one of the ways was filling in their holes, and it was like, you can sometimes people do fill in their holes, and connecting into this mole energy, I can hear them saying, well, that won't work because we're moles and we dig and we make tunnels and that's what we do, so you can fill it in but it's not going to stop us. And I just had this real, it was like a really joyful energy of like, this is my mission and this is what I'm doing. There's no stopping them, you know, they know what they're here to do. They're already doing it, and you know, there's no malice, but they're like, you're not going to stop us because this is what we're here to do. And something that I tuned in with my dog was, she's become obsessed. She's very good. She's a Siberian Husky, and you know, they're known for having a high prey drive. However, I have been very blessed that from a very young age, because I had this communication that I was able to do with her, we've worked together and there's understanding. Obviously, she'll still get moments where she's like, what's that? She's interested, but she's very good. She'll lay in the garden in the summer with the birds, and the birds will land on the ground really near her, and she'll just lay and she'll accept them. She loves to see squirrels, but again, not to chase them. She loves to watch them climb. She wants to see them. And that's not to say she never would, that her prey drive would never kick in, because again, she is here, she is an animal, and that is part of her makeup in this incarnation. But she does have a very deep understanding about other animals, and so in all the time I've had her, I've never had that. Quite often she'll see, like with the squirrels, she wants to run with them. She thinks like, they're running, they're trying to encourage me, she wants to run with them. So I've been very, very blessed in that way to have that understanding with her, but that's not to say that she wouldn't ever have her prey drive kick in. So I'm always very aware of that. And, you know, out of respect for other animals, I would never kind of leave it to chance. I'm always aware. But she's become very interested in molehills lately, and it was around the same time that I was noticing them. And obviously our animals pick up on our energy, and we're very connected. So when I'm out walking her and I've seen them and I've been like, molehill, she's like, oh, what's this? And she's been for a sniff and exploring them. And tuning into her energy, I could feel that this was amazing. Like, she's getting all of these amazing smells that have come from deep down in the earth that she normally can't get to. So all of these new and amazing things are coming up. It's like a whole new environment that's coming up for her, and that's enriching her experience. And she's getting all this information through the smells about what's going on under the ground. And it just made me think that actually it's uncovering, and this is where the mole kind of wanted me to see a reflection of them within the journey that humans are going through currently, and this huge transition upon the earth with humanity. A lot of things are coming up. Things are coming up to the surface to be seen and to be recognized. But actually, within those things coming up, yeah, there might be things that we perhaps don't really want to see, things that are difficult to deal with. But in coming up, it's something new. It's something that we can see, because when things are hidden, we can't see them, so we don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know how we're going to navigate those things. Whereas when things are coming up to the surface, everything's in the light, everything can be seen, and then we can understand and we can process things and we can decide how we're going to move forward with things. And something else, when interacting with this beautiful energy with the mole, and I can feel it here again now, and it's just listening, just like waiting for me to say some more. I did ask it, and I said, do you ever feel sad that you spend your life underground? And the answer came back, no. Why would I feel sad? I love it down here. This is my home. This is where I am. I love it. This is my life. And it's funny sometimes, because we do look at things where someone might have a different life to us, and we might think, oh, that's really sad, or oh wow, their life's amazing, it's better than mine. But that's just subjective. We're not, that's not necessarily like the person that you think, oh, that's really sad. Perhaps someone's very poor. You might think, oh, that's really sad. But what you don't know is their life is enriched in so many other ways, and money's not a factor to them. They don't, because they're poor, they've accepted it, but they have so much enrichment in other ways and things that bring them joy. And and like some of the wealthiest people that we see in society, you will hear that they've suffered with depression, or people that they have so much money, but actually they're quite angry people. So what we perceive as being something isn't always the reality. And it was interesting with the mole, because the mole is so full of joy that they live underground and they're happy there. Like, they've not made the best of it, because that's the wrong thing to say. It's beautiful. They love it. It just is. It is where they are, and it is what they love. And they said there's all sorts of amazing things down here, things that you don't know about. And I was like, oh. And then it got me feeling like, oh, I wish I could pop down there for a day and actually experience it. And they were showing me that as they're digging and they're moving through, it's very much a physical thing, that they're moving through on their journey forward physically, to the next bit, finding food, finding shelter, moving obstacles out of the way. But that it's also a very kind of it is emotional. They're saying, yes, it is emotional. They're feeling all the feelings. Like, they're experiencing joy. They're sometimes experiencing apprehension, because they don't know what is ahead of them, just like us. They're saying also things block their paths, like tree roots, things they don't always know. So things block their paths. But they say we always find a way around it. We always find a way around it. And so that's very much in line with us overcoming obstacles. So things that come up in our lives where we're thinking, oh, this is difficult, how am I going to tackle it? You just stop. They're saying they pause. What they do when they're unsure, they pause, and they're saying to me they sniff. But what they're saying, they sniff, but the feeling I'm getting is they assess. So it's kind of like their radar. So they're sniffing to assess and feel out the environment, and looking at which, what's the best route through. This is an obstacle. Is it an obstacle I can get under? Can I get around it? And I'm seeing that, I don't know if this is in many parts of the world, but in the UK, there's a book called We're Going on a Bear Hunt. And it's a book that I read as a young child at primary school. And these people are going to hunt this bear, but throughout the book there are obstacles to prevent them. So it will be like, there's a swamp, and it will say like, it's too muddy, it's too deep, can't get under it, can't get round it, we'll have to go through it. And that's kind of like the general theme throughout the book. All these obstacles, they have to go through it, they have to get over it. And this is like, the mole is showing me that they're assessing. They take a moment to assess What is the best way? Can they go through it? Do they need to go around it? And they always find a way. And I think they're very resilient animals, is what they were showing me. They are actually very resilient. And it's also showing us that we are very resilient. So when we have obstacles that come up, you may actually be in the most difficult time of your life at present, and you feel overwhelmed and you're thinking, I'm never going to get through this. This is so hard. But if you just take a moment, you might not have all of the answers. You might not be able to solve the whole thing, like with the mole. You might not be able to get to its final destination, however far it wants to go in that day or that moment. But what it will do is assess, how can I get through this obstacle right now? And so that's what they're showing. Like, humans are resilient as well. You can get through the obstacles that come up. You just have to take a moment to assess, think about how you feel, think about what you want to achieve, but don't put too much pressure on yourself to achieve too far ahead. Think about, okay, this has happened right now. What can I do right now? Because some things that happen are out of our control. Especially if it's something where you're relying on somebody else. Say perhaps, I don't know, perhaps your car breaks down and you need to get it repaired, but the garage can't fit you in for a week. So you have no car for a week. So that's going to affect you getting to work or taking the children to school. And in that moment, it can feel kind of overwhelming. Well, I've got all of these things to do and I need my car and I can't do that. But what you need to do is think, well, the garage has given me a date. It's going to be a week without my car. You're like, okay, so you know the problem is going to get fixed and you know when it's going to get fixed. So there is an end to this current obstacle. There is a way round it or through it. But right now, you have to think, okay, what are my priorities? Well, food shopping, I do normally like to go to the supermarket, but I can do that online. So, okay, for this week, I can do my food shop online. That really helps me out because it will be delivered. I have a neighbour actually whose children go to the same school as me. I'll go and ask if it would be possible for them to take my children, or to car share for the week. It's just kind of taking the overwhelm away and just being more focused. And I feel like with the mole energy is really calm. And it's funny because as a child, I always remember loving moles because they looked like they felt like velvet. And it's funny because it's like the feeling, sounds really strange, but I can feel the feeling of velvet, but the energy with it is very calm and solid. I'm hearing solid. The energy is very calm and solid. So they're very well thought out animals. They're not racing around digging tunnels, while on the surface, especially if we have perhaps horses or we're farmers and we're seeing molehills everywhere and we're thinking, oh, look at this nightmare. They're not racing around doing this for fun. There's a purpose. They're very well thought out. And something I did notice, I actually posted a picture on Instagram to one of my stories a while back. I'd gone out walking my dog, and across the field you could see where the mole had been, but it was like this perfect kind of like following this perfect course. It was like a little semicircle where it had been following, and you could actually see and imagine from underground what this must have looked like. It must have been really, really cool to see it underground. And so there's the overcoming obstacles. They want humanity to know that if we just take a moment to assess, we can overcome obstacles. There are always ways around and through. And they are also showing us something which it's about the light and the dark. This year, now I heard very clearly at the start of this year from my own guides, this is going to be a year of contrast between light and dark like never before. You will see it everywhere. And I have already seen it. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in the outside world. There's a very stark difference between the light and the dark, and you can really see it. It's all coming up to be seen. And that's something that the mole is showing, that being the dark doesn't have to be scary. The dark isn't a scary place. It's only scary if we allow it to be. And the mole, like the energy of the mole is kind of like, it's kind of laughing. It finds it funny that we would think that the dark was scary, because it's saying the dark is my home. It's peaceful, it's lovely, it's inviting, it's safe. And as a child, I was terrified of the dark, absolutely terrified of the dark. And I think that's because I was aware of spirit, and I always was worried that things might try to get me get me in the dark and I wouldn't see them coming. I think a lot of it was that. But obviously in the work that I do now, like, spirits don't really, not bothered whether it's daytime or nighttime. They're kind of they're existing and kind of walking around with, if we're not aware of them, they're walking around in their dimension, whether it's daytime or nighttime anyway. But I used to be really afraid of the dark, and it wasn't until 2005 when I went traveling on my own, staying in hostels and things like that. Sometimes you're in a room with a lot of other people, a lot of people you don't know, and people, obviously, they all have their own schedules. It's not like, you want to go to bed and obviously they're going to bed too. So I'd be going to bed, and there'd be several of us in the room who'd gone to bed and the lights would be off, and then you'd get some people that would come in at like midnight, like 1 a.m, turn on the light and kind of like come into the room as if it was the middle of the day, without any regard for the fact that some people were sleeping. And I remember, like, I can distinctly remembering the feeling of like craving darkness and craving the peace. And it was from my experience traveling, from those times in hostels, that when I got to spend time camping in some of the national parks in America, I remember the beauty of the darkness, because there's no light pollution. The beauty of when the darkness came and it was so dark and so silent, and just it felt like a blanket of like a big hug of like silence and protection and peace. And it was from then, when I came back from traveling, I was like, I sleep in the dark all the time, whereas I used to have like a little light on, or sometimes I'd fall asleep with my lamp on. I literally craved the dark, and I would always sleep in the dark from then on. And I have found the dark to be incredibly peaceful. And again, it's just the way that you view things. So mole energy wants us to know that the dark doesn't have to be scary. When you are unsure, when you're unsure of the unknown, take comfort in the fact that things can come into the light. Things don't have to stay in the dark. So once you see things in the darkness, you can always shine a light on it. You can choose to shine a light on it, and that is by gaining more knowledge, more wisdom. And again, I've said before, I said in one of my videos recently over on my Spirit Journey of Enlightenment YouTube, about looking at things differently and being open to the message. And I think that's really important. You don't have to dive straight into something. If something seems a little bit dark or a little bit scary to you, don't have to dive in straight away and expose yourself, because that can be really damaging for you mentally and emotionally, and also spiritually. It's not great, because then your energy is really disrupted, and that might stay with you for quite a long time. So if you see something and you think, oh, that's not very nice, like for me, an example for me would be stories about animal abuse. In my work as an animal communicator, I understand that all animals have likes and dislikes, they have personalities, they all have a story to tell. And so for me, it's very hard excuse me, it's very hard when I see videos and things of mistreatment. Now, I know it goes on, and I don't make out like, well, in my world it's great talking to animals, because I've worked with animals that have come from not very nice situations. I'm very aware it goes on, but I choose when to look into those things. So I don't follow all of the rescues. over on Instagram. I don't follow all of these things because I know it's out there. So every now and again I will dip in to enable me to get some more insight, to understand perhaps where more healing energy needs to go. But I don't bombard myself with it. The rescues and the people that I follow are the ones that share a balance of, the really heartbreaking stories, but also this is how they rehabilitated. So don't take it all on at once. Limit yourself. So when you feel darkness coming up, and even within yourself, this journey is a lot about understanding the light and dark within ourselves, and we all have it. And anyone that says to you like, I've addressed all my darkness, I'm perfect, that's absolute nonsense, because we're always learning and we're always growing. All you can do is every day is recognize when things come up that are perhaps not from a heart-centered place, and think, why did I react that way? Why did I feel like that? And assess, like at the end of every day, it's usually when I take a shower, I kind of play back the day in my mind and I think, what did I learn? What did I do well? And what did I perhaps did I react in a way that isn't the way that I'm trying to be, that, I could have done better. I could have used my knowledge and understanding a little better in my life. And how can I improve tomorrow? It's all about learning and growing. And the mole energy is a gentle but determined energy, and they're quite independent. The feeling I get is they're quite independent as well. They're just, saying, I'm just doing my own thing. They're just doing their own thing. Like they're aware of communities of other animals that live underground, and they're saying there's no malice. They're all surviving, they're all thriving, they're coexisting, they're all moving through they're saying like whirlpools. That's interesting. It's a really interesting analogy because it's a land creature. They're showing me like whirlpools, but they're not. They're like really gentle whirlpools, and you've got all these whirlpools kind of going on where all these different animals are just like existing in their little areas, but also the areas are spreading out and they're all kind of crossing over. A bit like us as humans, we're surviving in our own little bubble. That's our our world and our experience and our view of the world. But every time we interact with other people, like here with you, my energy is reaching out and interacting with you, and you might pick something up that you'll think, oh, that that was interesting, or I hadn't considered that, and then you might share it in a conversation with someone else. And so that, like the whirlpools, I see what they're saying. It's like the whirlpools of energy are kind of just all interacting and all moving forward. But it doesn't have to be chaotic. And yeah, they're saying they're very measured. There's no chaos. There's structure to what they do. So while on the top we may just look and see a field full of molehills, they didn't all just pop up randomly. They were very thought out. And yeah, they take their time, even though they're super fast. I can't remember. I should have looked it up before I came on here. I did look a while ago at how fast they can dig. They can cover some area in a short space of time. But what they're saying is speed isn't the necessity. It just helps them get along. So you don't always have to do everything really fast. And it's, it's another tragic thing of the way that we are now, is that everything should be done yesterday. Everything's going faster and faster. And we don't have time to think. We don't have time for our feet to touch the ground. And that's actually not how it should be. Mole is saying that the earth is coming back into balance, and people they'll not only feel the need to slow down, but they will like the feeling of slowing down. That's really interesting. Yeah, they will like the feeling of slowing down. So we'll be able to see more. And mole energy showing me again, like taking a really big sniff of like, you'll actually be able to smell life. Whereas, like, what they mean is like you'll be able to take it all in. You'll be able to actually see everything and appreciate everything. You'll be taking it all in and being able to pinpoint where your next hill will be, so you'll be able to pinpoint your journey and actually where you want to stop along the way. It's funny because I'm seeing, like, with the molehills, I'm seeing them, but they've all got like little signposts on the top, and they're showing me as if like they're signposts for your life, like in your human experience. So it's like lunch with friends, taking the children to school, bath time for the dog, enjoying a nice cup of tea and reading a book. You'll be able to see, in slowing down and being more structured in what you do, you'll actually be able to pick and choose where your next molehill is going to be, and you'll have more time for that. Oh, I think that's really nice. That's a really lovely analogy. Yeah, I like that. Anything else? Claws. Claws. They're very proud of their claws. Claws. They're just showing me claws. Very good for digging. Oh, that's interesting. Very good for digging, but not for fighting. So what they're saying is they don't feel, they're not, I don't feel any aggression. I don't actually know. Moles eat kind of like bugs and worms and things, don't they? I really need to read more about them. But as I said, I wanted to connect into the energy and get the information through before I had any kind of bias from what I'd read or learned. So yeah, they feel like they're very gentle, despite the fact that they do have these, what may appear to be weapons. They aren't. They are there for use to help them to move through life and to navigate their way. But they are quite gentle creatures, actually. They feel very gentle, and they're saying they're actually very respectful. So while we think, like I said, when we see the molehills on top, we're like devastation, they're actually not, and they are working in harmony with the earth. They are a really important part of the ecosystem, because what they're showing me is, as they're moving through the soil, they're helping to regenerate the soil. So they're bringing things up. So there's nutrients that are coming up, and then you'll have other animals that will come that will feed in the soil, such as birds and things like that. And that soil is then kind of like the topsoil, and those nutrients are going back down into the top level of the soil to regenerate it. And I'm also being shown that they are, it's really interesting, they're working in harmony with the mycelium. So they help to kind of move things so that the mycelium can spread and flourish. And that helps to regenerate the soil and helps with the trees and all of that as well. So yeah, they're saying that they're actually very respectful. So while we might from the top think that it's all chaos, it's not. They're very well thought out, and they're actually quite they really want to get that point across. They don't want you to see them as being like disastrous little troublemakers, because they're not. That's not the energy that they're sharing. Anything else that they want to? They're saying taking care of themselves, and I didn't actually know this. I'm seeing the mole actually preening itself, a bit like a cat or a dog, like washing itself. And after it's been digging and it's had a long day, it will actually go to rest, and it will spend time cleaning and grooming itself and actually relaxing. I'm actually feeling, it's really funny, I can feel like, this is going to sound really really weird, I can feel like I'm a mole, and I can feel my body, and I can feel like the wrinkles of my skin, and as I'm relaxing, and I can feel like this kind of letting out a sigh of like, and I can just feel like all the skin like rippling as everything kind of like relaxes. It's a really bizarre feeling. So yeah, so the mole, after it's had its long day of digging, it does take time for itself. It takes time to relax, to groom itself, to clean itself. And it's saying that's really important. It's saying, how can you do the job you're supposed to do if you are not taking care of yourself first? That's actually very important for all of us, because I know, like, I found it especially lately. I've had so many things to do, and it's literally felt like treading water, because I just can't keep up. I'm trying to stay afloat, and I can't keep up with all the things I need to do. And when you try to prioritize, sometimes you have several things that need doing at once. You know, back to the car, the broken down car analogy. You've got things where, like, you know, you need to take children to school, you need to do the food shop, and they're all things that need doing in that space of time. You can't say, oh, I won't get any food in for a month. Like, that's not possible. And sometimes prioritizing is quite hard, especially if you have several things that are really important, they're of equal importance, and they all need doing at a certain time. And that's quite difficult. But Mole is kind of saying to me, you know, you have to take care of yourself first. It's like I'm seeing the analogy of, you know, on the aircraft, and I remember being younger thinking this was horrendous. Saying to adults, put your oxygen mask on before you put your children's on, and I used to think, like, what an awful thing. Like, surely you'd protect the children first. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you're not helping yourself and you're not in a fit state, you can't possibly do anything else. So what they're saying is you can't do what you're supposed to do. You can't show up in the world on, you know, on your sole purpose, on your journey, if you're not taking care of yourself. So no matter how busy we are, you have to take time out. You have to, because otherwise you end up, and this is quite funny, this is what the Mole is saying, if you don't take time for yourself and you don't take time out, you end up being the way we perceive their molehills to be. Totally chaotic, totally disastrous, with absolutely no plan, just, you know, a mess. And so they think that's really funny. They think it's really funny that we look at all the molehills and we're like, oh my gosh, what an absolute mess. But actually underground, they're very organised and it's all well thought out, whereas our own lives are actually genuinely quite chaotic and quite messy. And yet we're the ones who are like, look at the mess, when the mess is here. So yeah, so take care of yourself, put yourself first. Anything else? Yeah, they're saying that the darkness doesn't go away just because we don't want to see it. It doesn't make it go away. And it's something that I've actually found quite difficult with people in my own life. There are people that, and I consider myself to be one of these people, I'd rather see the darkness and be aware of it so that I know what I'm dealing with. And then you can, like I was saying earlier, you can figure out how to tackle it, or whether you need to tackle it, whether it does affect you, or you're just aware of it and you know it exists, but that's okay because right now I don't actually need to take any action. Or you have people who they don't want to know because it's too much, it's too terrifying, and that kind of it's almost like a child being afraid of things. They don't want to know because that completely shatters their little safety bubble of how they want the world to appear, whether the world really is that way or not. Some people do not want to ever accept or acknowledge that there are darker things that go on in the world. And the Mole is saying, just because you don't acknowledge the darkness, it doesn't go away. It's still there. And like they're showing me, like, you know, if we're up here in the daytime in the light and they're underground in the dark, just because we're not underground with them, it doesn't mean they're not there. They still exist. It's still going on. But they're not asking us to come down and join them. They're saying just be aware that this is here, but you don't need to come down and be in it. We're not asking you to live down there with us because that's not what you're about. So I think it's been really interesting to might actually speak to the Mole energy again, because I feel like they're actually they're saying they're small and mighty and full of wisdom. They do feel that way. They feel like they do actually have a lot to share, and you would think, oh, but you're just underground, like you don't experience anything else. But we're saying that from a point of being up here. How do we know? How do we know that there's not other wonderful things down there? Things that we could experience without, because moles don't have great vision, and so they're saying it's not needed. They don't need their vision to see. And it's interesting actually, because that ties in with something that I was looking at the other day. It was actually one of the rescues that I follow on Instagram. They were saying about how a lot of the time people will comment on the tripod dogs, you know, the dogs with only 3 legs where they've had an amputation. And people will say, oh, it's so sad that, you know, their lives are like that and they can't run around like normal dogs. And then they just showed all these videos of their tripod dogs running around, playing at the beach, playing with each other, just living a normal life, because they've adapted. And sometimes what we think we need in order to survive and have the best life isn't actually what we do need, if that makes sense. So we might think, you know, that we need a certain level of income, or we might think that we need to be surrounded by all these amazing material things. But actually, only through seeing the darkness in our own lives and in our own worlds, you know, if we've particularly, you know, if we've experienced something really difficult like a loss or unemployment, you suddenly find ways to cope and ways to navigate, and then it almost becomes like you realize I didn't need all of that. I didn't need all of those things in order to move through my life, in order to achieve what I wanted. And I think that's wisdom from mole energy that I'm going to take on board myself, because it's quite easy sometimes to fall into that trap of thinking, oh, but I don't have this, I can't do this because I don't have that. So I think I would at some point like to connect into their energy again, because I feel like they actually have so much wisdom. And what I might actually do, yeah, they're saying, yeah, it's a good idea. As I thought it, they were saying it's a good idea. What I might actually do is do a mole meditation journey, and I will let it be guided by their energy and by spirit, and we will actually travel with them underground, and we will see, smell, hear and taste some of the things that they experience, to open us up to a whole other sensory experience, and to gift us more understanding of what we do need and what we don't need in order to move forward with our journey. So yeah, that's lovely. That's a really nice gift from them. So look out for that. If you've enjoyed this video, look out for that mole meditation journey, and we will travel along with the mole and see. Also, let me know if you have, I know a lot of people will say, oh, that's my spirit animal. Let me know if you have an affinity with moles, or if there's something that you love or you know about them, an interesting fact. Let me know in the comments, because I love that. I love getting knowledge from people. But yeah, thank you for listening. I'm going to thank the mole energy and send their energy back to them with love. And I thank you for listening. If you would like to book a one-to-one animal communication session for your own animal companions, you can visit my website, which is www.spiritjourneyhealing.com, and you can see which sessions I offer there and read about how the sessions work, and if you would like to book a session with me. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a really nice way of working, actually, to actually channel while I'm with you while I'm doing it, because I'm learning in real time from them and hearing their wisdom, which is lovely, rather than actually channeling, writing it down and then reading it back. It feels like I can be a bit more engaged with you rather than looking at my notes. So this has been really nice. Thank you for joining me. If you do like my content and it resonates with you, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for being with me. With love from me and from the mole. I will speak to you again soon. Thank you.